Hi, we're going to touch upon one of the most important topics for this time. We're going to discuss about, is there a recession in the United States? In order to touch upon whether is there a recession in the United States and what are the impacts of the recession, we need to understand what's happening in the global economy in the last 3 years. The global economy has been facing quite a lot of challenges. One of the challenges which has been there is that the Russia-Ukraine war has affected Europe in terms of supply crisis, wherein the energy had been badly affected. In the US, there has been a huge demand, and thereby there has been a huge amount of inflation, and this had led to a high surge in inflation. So thereby the supply crisis in Europe had created a huge amount of inflation. The US has been struggling with a huge inflation because of the demand crisis, and similarly in China, the supply chain challenges had led to, post the pandemic, had led to a huge inflation. Now, what has this really cost? This has really cost a huge amount of inflation in the United States, and since the inflation went very high, the United States had to bring it down to 2%, which is healthy for the US economy. In order to bring the inflation rate lower, the central bank governor or the Fed usually increases the interest rates. Now, when they increase the interest rates, the belief is that the industries who would usually avail loans would no longer avail loans, and thereby the whole economy, which is rampant, would slow down, and thereby it would lead to the economy to slow down, and thereby it's a belief that the inflation brings down, and that did happen. The United States economy was growing at a very fast inflation rate, which was really bad for people because people could not really afford things. Everything was getting more expensive. In Europe, the challenge was that the energy prices were increasing, and thereby everything, all the food and everything, the prices were increasing tremendously. Now, the US, as the Fed increased the interest rates, the inflation started coming down, and the Fed increased the interest rates to approximately 5.25% points. And this led to the whole economic activities reducing. Many industries went bankrupt. Popular industries to mention are Fisker, the Silicon Valley Bank, which had given huge amount of debts to many startups. Now, a lot of companies started making huge collapse, and thereby the whole United States economy in the last 1 year has been very bad for especially the industries. Now, the question that comes inside is the United States slipping into a global recession? In the last 1 month, there are many reports which are coming down about the unemployment reports. The unemployment reports are clearly stating that it's way higher than the expected number of the government and the research organizations. And thereby, in the last 1 week, what has been the most worrying thing for the industries is that most of the companies have been crashing down. Now, the stock market crashed in the last 1 week. It went to such a powerful crash that it's been a crash in the last 40 years. And this crash has wiped out trillions of dollars out of the economy. Now, most of the blue chip companies which are into the future of the AI business or the electric vehicles, most of them have totally crashed down. Now, the question that arises is the United States slipping into a recession? And what has to be done ahead? And that is where, if you notice, we come to the conclusion that yes, there are many parameters, many readings which are bringing out, many economic reports and readings which are stating that the US is almost on the verge of slipping into a recession. Now, the question is, what is the decision of the Fed at this point of time? In the next few days, the Fed is predicted to reduce the interest rates, the interest points, which is at 5.25, which has been historically higher in the last 40 years. And now the Fed is focusing on bringing it down at a very fast pace. Now, what is the decision of the Fed? The Fed has decided that they are going to reduce the interest rates. The initial prediction was that they were to reduce the interest rates in the month of June. June became July, July became September. So the prediction as of now is that July and November, they're planning to reduce two interest cuts, which means that it can go to somewhere around from 5.25, it can go to 4.75 approximately. However, with the fear of the recession coming inside, it could be that in the next few days they could do an emergency interest rate cut in order to bring inside the confidence inside the markets. However, there are many reports which are stating that the federal bank governor is still still feels that it's still not slipped into a recession, and that the markets are creating there is a fear, panic selling which is happening inside. However, the panic selling has wiped out trillions of dollars, and many businesses have collapsed down, and thereby it can really fall into a bankruptcy. Many companies could slip into a bankruptcy. Now, what's the impact of the US economy on the global markets? What happens in the United States again impacts on the global economy, and thereby it leads to a position where the foreign portfolio investors around the world panic selling, which again creates ripple effects of fear of slip of recession as a domino effect from the United States to the other countries of the world. And in order to prevent these things, the Fed has to step inside and analyze what is the impact, and thereby lead to whether they need to cut down the interest rates or they need to look upon this. Now, why is this really happening, and what could really be a challenging thing for the Fed? The central bank, or for the Fed, the biggest challenge which is coming inside is that there is there is already a war which is happening in the Ukraine-Russian region. There is a fear of another war which can escalate from not just between Israel attacks on Palestine, but then it can also slip down to a whole war between Iran and Israel, and thereby it can really have a lot of repercussions. And a repercussion or an impact on the Middle East market would really impact on the surging of the oil prices, and thereby it might push the global economy even further. So this is one of the biggest fears and the challenges which is coming inside. And the third talk which we need to look upon is what is the impact of the stocks post the rate cut, and how beneficial it is for new people who want to get into stock markets. We usually call this as the bull market and the bear market. In the last 3 years, it has been an historical bear market in the last, which is something which has arisen after another last 30 years. And now, how beneficial is it for new investors to invest inside? This is the right period where during a bear market the stock markets fall. That is the period of time when any investor needs to step inside and purchase. And in this is the whole global economy is cyclical phase, wherein there is expansion and there is contraction. This is where we are going through a contraction phase, and in a contraction phase, if investors purchase stocks, it leads to rise in the next few years. And as the Fed of the US and other central bank governors start reducing the interest rates, the whole market activity increases. And as the market activities start increasing, there are more amount of trade which happens, and we call this as the bull market. The bull market is the emergence of the stock markets to once again grow. So every stock that crashes once again needs to grow, or every company's investments that fall, once again the reinvestments increase, and thereby 2025 could be a much better year, wherein as the interest rates are decreasing tremendously from the September onwards, and as the United States, if they find that recession has been controlled and the inflation has been controlled, then the interest rates will fall tremendously. And when the interest rates come down, the economic activities increase, and thereby it leads to more and more profits for the companies, and thus the investors also start making money. Thank you so much, and let's wait and watch till what's happening inside the stock markets and the US economy and the recessions.